Hello friends, welcome into the Cowboys Report presented by the MyTV Choice app. Go download the app today at mytvchoice.com to get rid of commercials during March Madness. Now, free agency is pretty much over. Maybe one or two other moves here for the Cowboys, but probably not. So let's take a look at some updated needs for the Dallas Cowboys as they enter the NFL draft. Now, the Cowboys have been fairly aggressive so far in free agency in terms of the second and third tier. Not in the initial tier, but for Randall Cobb, to go out and also sign George Iloka, to go trade for Robert Quinn, to go add depth in Kerry Hyder and Christian Covington. So not aggressive in tier one, as they really never truly are. But in that second, third tier, I think they were aggressive a little bit and successful as well. I like the moves they've made so far. And the big thing in their overarching goal was, let's get rid of the screaming needs at several different positions. They needed a tight end. They needed a defensive tackle, a defensive end, a safety, a receiver. They signed those guys. Now they're in a position to more look at several different spots in round 2, in round 3, in round 4, and find some impact players in those early rounds. So we'll take you through the Cowboys draft needs with the draft just a few weeks away. Number one for me, it's safety. The top three are all coming back. Jeff Heath's back. Xavier Woods is back. Woods, of course, is your number one, by the way. Kevon Frazier's back. And then they added George Iloka. Now, I think that Iloka is going to have to compete for everything. For a starting spot alongside Jeff Heath, or versus Jeff Heath potentially, and also just for a roster spot. His deal is super cheap with no guaranteed money. He's not guaranteed a roster spot. With the way they're paying Iloka, assuming they don't sign anybody else in free agency, I think going after a safety in round 2 makes a lot of sense. There are a lot that I like this year, a lot that you guys like this year. You can find a really good one at 58 or even moving up just a few spots to get somebody. So what is your top need for the Dallas Cowboys? Maybe it's not safety. If so, let me know in the comments section. There's kind of a tier of 3 that I think are the top needs for the Cowboys, and we'll break those down, of course, but let me know what you guys think in the comments section. At number 2 for me, defensive end. You tag DeMarcus Lawrence. There's still no long-term deal. That's a big reason why it's number 2 for me, because in reality, after this year, you got all kinds of uncertainty right now. Who knows what Dorrance Armstrong will be? We'll see if Taco Charlton ever becomes a reliable piece. You added Kerry Hyder, who's going to play some defensive tackle as well. You traded for Quinn. Those guys are on one-year deals, and for now, that's all DeMarcus Lawrence has as well. And yeah, you're hoping that Gregory comes back. I don't know if that's actually going to be the outcome, though, in the end for the Cowboys and where they currently sit in terms of actually getting him back. It's a nice hope, but you can't bank on it. So if I'm the Cowboys and there's a good one there in round 2 or round 3, I'm strongly considering adding a defensive end. And much like George Iloka, by the way, Kerry Hyder, not guaranteed a roster spot either. Now, we'll keep moving here, but first, today's show is brought to you guys by the MyTV Choice app. Go download the app today at mytvchoice.com. Get rid of commercials during March Madness. Instead, get some chat sports content sent right to your TV because the app knows when a commercial comes on. Get it today at mytvchoice.com. To number 3, then, in the last of what I consider the top tier needs for the Cowboys right now, not in terms of absolutely need to get somebody, but a guy you want and can have someone contribute. That is defensive tackle. Now, I do like where the Cowboys currently sit overall entering the draft. But let's get some more help there. You brought back Daniel Ross. That makes some sense. You signed Christian Covington. Who is your impact defensive tackle? I think you'll see more of Tyrone Crawford at DT this year. I like Antoine Woods. I like Malik Collins. I like Covington too. You can get by with those guys. But if there's an impact tackle, be it at the 1 or the 3 technique, that makes sense. And much like defensive end, your long-term outlook is a question mark. Malik Collins and Antoine Woods' deals expire after the 2019 season. So if you find good value in round 2 or round 3 or even round 4, it makes some sense to add some help there. So what do you think is the bigger need? Defensive tackle or defensive end? In general, I'm almost looking for one more impact guy on day 2. You get one of those players, be it at DT or defensive end, I think you'll be in better shape come the NFL regular season. Let's move then to number 4, I think really kind of on a tier of its own. So I guess we'll call it tier 2 right now. That is running back. You obviously don't need a starter or even a guy that's going to play 40 snaps a game. But you do need somebody to help with the workload of Ezekiel Elliott. Rod Smith's a free agent. I don't know if he's going to be back at this point for the Dallas Cowboys. That leaves Zeke and Darius Jackson and Jordan Shun. I'm looking in round 4, maybe with that comp pick, you can find a good running back. Heck, I wouldn't even rule out the Cowboys double dipping at the running back spot. Maybe you go round 4 and again in round 7. I think that mid and or late round pick makes a lot of sense for the Cowboys because if you want to extend Zeke long term, you got to get him more help back there. He cannot have that amount of workload and expect him to still be the same guy in 3 years. That's just an unrealistic expectation. Let's move then to number 5, and I'll make note right now. Really needs 5 through 8 or 9. They're all pretty interchangeable in my eyes because this is more of a future need position. Because this year, right now, you are fine at receiver. Amari Cooper, Gallup, Cobb, if you keep Allen Hurns, Noah Brown, Tavon Austin, Cedric Wilson, you go 7 deep. You don't need anybody right now. But after this coming season, Cooper, Gallup are the only top guys that you know are going to be back next year because Cobb, Hurns, and Austin are all on 1-year deals. So if you find the value even in round 2 or round 3, or maybe you wait till round 4 or 5 and get someone like Stanley Morgan, that sets you up in good position for the future. So again, this is not a, oh my God, we need a starter need. This is, hey, let's keep an eye out for 2020 need. The same is true with number 6 at tight end. You lost Jeff Swaim, no surprise there. You brought back Jason Witten, which I still feel is almost some kind of weird April Fool's Day joke. And then you have Blake Jarwin and Dalton Schultz. But what do you actually have in those two long term? I like Schultz. I like Jarwin. I'm not convinced because we haven't seen enough of it yet, and I think the Cowboys feel the same way. So, again, much like receiver, if you find the value, why not do it? But I don't think because you signed Witten, you're not forced into taking a tight end early. You don't have to do it just to get by. Instead, the signing of Witten kind of bought you time to wait on value in round 2 or round 3 or beyond, or even wait till 2020 free agency or the draft. Now, of those last 2 positions, which would you rather the Cowboys draft early? Type, obviously, WR for wide receiver or TE for tight end. For me, I kind of lean more towards wide receiver. I think the value is going to be better in round 2 and round 3, unless someone like Irv Smith falls to you in round 2, which I would be pretty surprised if that one actually went down. Let's go to number 7 then, offensive tackle. Again, this is a future need because next year you're actually in really good shape. Cam Fleming's back, costing very little in 2019. La'el Collins is back again, and so is Tyron Smith. So for next year, in terms of likelihoods, you don't need to have more depth. Now, you always want to have extra depth just in case it happens to the Cardinals, happens to you, but you're not looking for like a round 2 tackle. You don't have to take someone to start right away. Now, with that said, if you can find a good developmental type, I'm all for that. Even as early as round 3. I think that makes sense because La'el Collins is on the last year of his deal. And Tyron played great last year, but it was when he was healthy. And he hasn't always been healthy in recent years. Now, the way you kind of structured Cam Fleming's deal was almost, hey, if we need him, we can start him in 2020. But I think the better outcome is there, if you can find someone later on in the draft or even in the mid-rounds, go find someone to groom and develop behind La'el Collins just in case he walks or you let him leave in free agency. We'll get back to more needs, but first, today's show is brought to you by BetDSI, the internet's #1 sportsbook. They're going to have all kinds of NFL draft prop bets, and I'll let you in on a little bit of a secret. Go follow me on Twitter at WhatGoingDowny, and we'll make some money together. I nailed it during the Combine. I'll nail it for the draft as well. Chatsports.com/bet, and use that promo code Cowboys120 for a 120% deposit bonus. Let's move to number 8, possibly the sneakiest need for the Cowboys, and I think it's fair to call it sneaky because I have them at 8. You're in good shape this year with your top 4. Byron Jones, assuming his hip is healthy, which I think it will be for the season. Chidobe Awuzie, Jordan Lewis, Anthony Brown, probably Brown before Lewis, but whatever in terms of the actual order. But note one, you can't ever have enough depth at corner. You just need cornerbacks in today's pass-happy NFL. And then most importantly, long-term, you're not going to keep all 4 of those guys. There's no way you can afford it because the salary cap is real on a macro level. You can't pay every single person. In reality, I wouldn't be surprised if you lose Anthony Brown next offseason. Now, I'll make note, Chris Richard has been doing the rounds with some notable big, lanky, long, and fast cornerbacks that fit his mold there. Isaiah Johnson, Lonnie Johnson, some other guys from Kentucky there. They all make a lot of sense. So keep an eye out for cornerback, maybe even earlier than you think, as a sneaky need for the Cowboys in the NFL draft. Now we're talking about the draft here, so question for you guys. Who's your all-time favorite Cowboys draft pick? Let me know in the comments section. And I'm talking about when they made the pick, not who it ended up becoming. Who was your favorite draft pick at the time? Little kid me was super excited about Terrence Newman and Roy Williams coming to the Cowboys. That's kind of going back there, but I'm sure you guys have some more recent ones as well. So let me know in the comments section. To number 9 now, and again, we stick with our depth theme because the Cowboys are in good shape with their roster. That's linebacker. You kept Sean Lee. You re-signed Justin March Lillard. Overall, I like where you're sitting if you're the Dallas Cowboys. The one big concern I have, and we're going to tweak the depth chart going forward, because who actually is your strong side linebacker? We'll list Sean Lee as just linebacker on his own. Christian Covington is the one that profiles the most as a Sam. We saw Joe Thomas play a little bit there. So I wouldn't be stunned if the Cowboys spent like a 4th or a 5th round pick on a linebacker. I don't think it's the most likely outcome. They haven't shown a ton of interest so far, but it does make some sense. But in terms of just pure linebacker talent, Jalen, LVE, Sean Lee, Joe Thomas, that's a pretty good top 4. You can throw in Chris Covington, who was a late round pick last year. The Cowboys pretty much drafted and stashed him this year on the roster, but never really played much. So I don't think they'd go early linebacker, but I at least want to make note of it. Number 10, how about kicker? My personal rule, I never put kicker or punter high on needs because it's a kicker or a punter. There's just no reason to justify it early because they don't go early unless you're the Bucs, and we know how that turned out. So Brett Maher remains a cost-effective option. That matters for the Cowboys, who are up against the cap space limit. But why not bring somebody in as an undrafted free agent? I wouldn't hate a kicker going in round 7 for the Cowboys, but you don't have to because you found Dan Bailey in free agency. You found Maher in undrafted free agency. Do the same thing there. So I don't think you have to draft a kicker, but I'm all for bringing in competition for the Cowboys in undrafted free agency. So I ask you, for you Maher haters out there or Maher truthers, should he be the Cowboys kicker next year? Give me a 1 for yes and a 0 for no. I'm fine with it, but I do want to bring in competition if I'm the Dallas Cowboys. Then our final need here, because interior offensive line and fullback's not a need right now for Dallas, quarterback. Dak is obviously going to remain your starter. I have mentioned before, I would love a veteran backup quarterback. Don't feel like that's going to happen at this point. And the Cowboys did just draft Mike White. They have Cooper Rush for now. I wouldn't hate going round 5, round 7 on a quarterback. The upside of hitting is far outweighs the upside of hitting with just like a linebacker or something. But I don't know if the Cowboys are going to take that approach, and I won't be upset if they don't take that approach. They clearly trust Cooper Rush and Mike White. Those two will probably compete for the role. That's why it's all the way down at number 11 for my Cowboys draft needs here. But just an idea out there. There are some passable quarterbacks that I could see the Cowboys targeting in the later rounds of the NFL draft. There is someone from Boise State. We know how those guys feel there. So, all right, Cowboys team needs here. Number 1, safety. Number 2 is defensive end. Number 3 is defensive tackle. Number 4 is running back. And number 5 is wide receiver. Those are the main areas of target for the Dallas Cowboys in terms of their team needs. Hey Cowboys fans, thanks for watching the Cowboys Report. If you haven't already, click right here to subscribe to our channel for all the best Cowboys coverage on the internet. That's news, rumors, highlights, mailbags, film studies, and a whole lot more. And I'm making your lives a little bit easier as well with the next Cowboys Report video right here.